Size with independence. This is usually a good combo to look for as you work to stay private. And my guest today is leading one model in the dental space, and he's going to share his story with us. I'm Carl White, principal at Mark Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of PracticeCare. But the mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. Not only is that what they want, but usually, mostly, care is better when the provider owns the place and they have the most freedom to make the clinical decisions they think are best. And any day that we can help another private practice owner stay private is a good day. And my guest today is Dr. Brady Frank. Dr. Frank is a third-generation dentist turned entrepreneur, inventor, author, and thought leader with a passion for teaching others the hard-won lessons he's learned about successfully creating and selling a business. Brady, thank you for coming on PracticeCare.
Hey, excited to be here, Carl. Appreciate it. And this would be great.
Yeah, I've been looking for, we haven't had this topic on per se before, so I've been looking forward to it. And let's get into it. Let's start with where I start with a lot of guests. Your bio was brief that I just read. So fill in more of your backstory for us, where you were, where you are now, why, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I started out in 1999, almost 25 years ago.
Survived Y2K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right before Y2K, I started out Marquette Dental School library, checking out books on dental transitions because I'd found out that my wrist may not allow me to practice dentistry. So I figured, well, I might have to learn how to operate businesses and employ dentists. I got out of school, the day I graduated, bought a practice, bought another, bought 7 in the first 5 years.
Wow.
And yeah, that with the real estate. And so that took me down the road of buying real estate and practices and then helping others do the same. And so that's kind of what started my journey out.
You got it. Okay. And you had said, maybe you kind of answered it, but let's get into it. Before we started recording in a previous discussion, you said you figured out that dentistry was going to be physically impossible. Did you mean generally or in your specific case?
Yeah. So it was junior year. I was golfing with my brother after dental school and felt something in my wrist, and I couldn't swing the golf club anymore. My wrist was locked into position and had a searing hot pain.
Got it.
Went to got an MRI, went to a wrist surgeon, and he said I have mid-carpal instability, where your little carpal bones actually kind of lock against one another, displace, and push on your nerve. And I said, oh, well, okay, well, let's, realign it. We're good to go. He said, well, no, the ligaments are slowly loosening over time. Therefore, you're going to continually have issues with your right hand and at the very least numbness, but generally the inability to use your right hand. And I was right-handed. Dentistry is very, hand skills.
Yeah.
So he said, well, we can fuse your carpal bones together, but you just wouldn't be able to have the dexterity and mobility to do the intricate things. I was like, oh my goodness. So that's when I started to say, okay, I'm past the point of no return as a junior in dental school. I can't choose a new career path.
Okay.
So I started to realize, okay, how can I own dental businesses without working in them? And so I nailed that. I got good at that, added partners, showed other people how to do it. And over the next 10 years, so from 2001, when I graduated, to 2011, helped hundreds of dentists for whatever reason they had, whether they just didn't like dentistry anymore, they wanted to retire, they had a physical issue with their neck or their back, whatever it was, I helped them to not only replace themselves in their practice, convert their active income to passive income, invest in real estate that then gave them more income. And then at the end of the day, as the DSO, MSO market kind of really stepped up gears, get much higher valuations as a platform of practices rather than an individual practice. And I started doing it with vet groups, chiropractic, bariatric surgery, actually brokered a lot of those and led 28 financial advisors on the same thing I'm doing in dentistry, but in other genres. And I can kind of point to different groups that I actually helped forge in all these different independent arenas in healthcare. So it was a wild journey, and it started with just a problem with a wrist. And so now anytime I get bad news, I say, all right, what is this propelling me towards, right?
Mm,
What is the good in it? What's the pearl in this? And the pearl in that was, help me find what I think is my purpose, and that is helping healthcare providers, especially dentists, on this podcast.
yeah.
You know, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we talked about this before we started recording. So it's good. So dental, what we're talking about, the topic we're talking about is applicable, in a number of different specialties, not just dentistry. Okay, good. So let's get into it. And the name of the business that we're talking about is called Freedom Dental Partners. What is it? How does it work? How does it compare to other kind of DSO or roll-up models? You know, Educate us on it.
Yeah. So most of these large DSO, MSO transactions, the average multiple is a 13 times multiple for
Mhm.
a group of practices together, whether it's dental, whether it is med spa, right? Whether it's
Brady, can you
optometry.
hang on one sec?
Yep.
Sorry, my dog is going nuts here, so I'm just gonna pause. Okay, so with that, that's good. With that as a backdrop, let's get into it. So the name of the business, Freedom Dental Partners, how does it work? What is it? How does it compare to other DSOs, other roll-up models? Educate us on it.
Yeah, so Freedom Dental Partners is a DSO, and basically there are hundreds of practices that have banded together. And instead of getting a 4 times, 5 times, 6 times multiple on their own, they receive what's called a platform multiple
Okay.
altogether by becoming the DSO. And this is done in the MSO space, and I've helped do it in other niches in healthcare. But basically, your valuation as an individual or 2 or 3 locations is less than half the amount that you receive when you've banded together and under what the private equity world calls a platform. And
Mhm.
so Freedom Dental Partners is simply there as a conglomeration tool. It's actually formerly a co-op where practices get together. We have a team that forges them and forms them into a platform. And then we take that platform, thusly valued at 2 or 3 times more than any one individual practice, and we bring it to the big sources of money, the institutional money, the people that have billions of dollars, right? And then they recapitalize, which basically means refinance. Another word for it is, you might say buys that platform. But the important thing is we, the doctors, have forged the management agreements, the autonomy component, all the freedom in that ahead of time. So when we bring in money, well, the HOA, so to speak, is already formed. The guy that starts a subdivision, he gets to form the HOA,
Mhm.
right? You got to keep your yard picked up. You got to have X flowers in the front. So we get to create the HOA, giving the doctors freedom, and then we recap it. The other model right now is corporate decides on the HOA or how you're
Mhm.
going to manage it. They come in and now you kind of fit into their system, their box, their brand. And not many doctors like switching from independence
Yeah.
over to kind of a corporate system.
Yeah. All right. So a couple of follow-on questions. First, why is a platform model more valuable than I guess, the corporate model?
It relates to this, and I'm going to use a quote from Warren Buffett back in the subprime recession when all these houses were worth half what
Yeah.
they normally were. He said, if I had a vehicle where I could buy 10,000 houses right now, I would. But Warren Buffett, is managing so much money that he's not going to take the time to buy a house. Same thing with these multi-billion-dollar institutions. They say the same thing. If I had a vehicle that I could buy 200 practices right now, I would. But I'm not going to go buy this one and that one. And it's just, they're managing billions in capital. So a platform does all the work and takes all the work out of it for the big boys. So the
Ah,
big boys can stroke one check and buy a platform worth 800 million, 400 million, 1.2 billion, and they're willing to pay a massive premium to buy them all together. Beyond that, why are they paying a premium? Because they're all in the same software.
yeah.
They're all in the same system. They're all in
You've
one.
done all the operational efficiency and everything, all the cleanup.
Yeah, all the cleanup. And so it does take us 1 to 2 years to bring them all together.
Yeah.
And that's the time that private equity doesn't have. In their world of trading dollars and moving money around, they need to get something done in 2 months, 3 months. That's how they're commissioned. They get commissioned on the deals. And to take a year and a half off, and that's not even in their bonus period. It's like they get bonus a quarter. So it's a weird system, and I had to learn it. And it's a funky system, but it's amazing the massive value that doctors can have if we basically cut out the middleman, right? We conglomerate as doctors instead of allowing some other entity to get that arbitrage and do it for us.
Got it. And then they pay the premium, but they don't have as much control as they would normally.
Yep.
And they're clearly willing to trade that off because they are, but I wouldn't have expected to hear that.
You wouldn't have. And let's dig a little deeper into that just to understand where we're at with that. So they buy it because the platform is successful financially. Okay. If it's successful financially, that means the systems in play must be good systems.
Yeah.
And so here are the things that doctors want. They want to be able to control their team and work with their team. Great. They want to be able to dictate the treatment, do the treatment they believe is best for the patient, so thusly control the patient.
Yeah.
The doctor also wants to control their own office hours, not be told how many hours a week to work, when to bring in a junior doctor. So all of those terms are between the parent company and each of the PCs. So in this model, the doctor still owns 100% of their own PC. Right?
PC meaning
professional corporation, their own practice entity.
Got it.
Like an S corp it generally is. And so this one central entity is connected then through management agreements that gives them freedom and autonomy. This would be the equivalent of the HOA, gives them that control individually at a practice level, but corporately at the top, they get all that value. So when the investor comes in, they don't touch your PCs. They make the investment into Holdco or Topco, or the parent company would call it. And all the management agreements that were already preformed aren't changed. They stay the same. They're assigned, and they've already been assigned. So what's wonderful is doctors are able to get their price that they want based on a conglomeration, the higher multiple, but they also get the terms that they frankly decided upon themselves because they eliminated the middleman. And so I like to say this: why get a single digit multiple on their terms when you can get a double digit multiple on your terms? And it's during that year to a year and a half of conglomeration that the terms are built and created. And so when the private equity comes in, this is ideally what they say. And the one that ends up recapitalizing or buying this group certainly does say this. They say, wow, you guys are growing like mad. What a great system you guys have. We're investing in your system, and we don't want to touch a thing, right? If it's good already, they let it go. And so we get our terms, we get our price. And then here's the beauty. The doctors don't have to take all of their value out in a year and a half as cash. They can take 70% of the chips off the table, get a massive multi-million-dollar payout, and leave 30% in stock, because this private equity company that buys for $500 million or $1 billion, they now want to trade at $2 billion. I mean, they're going to throw massive money at this, buy more independent practitioners in this wonderful model based on independence, freedom to the doctor. And they're going to now go and recap and sell to yet another larger private equity company who has the same goal of growing it and selling it again. Once you hit about $7 billion in value, then it all stops, because you're beyond KKR, BlackRock. You're to these top 8 private equity firms, and they still have meat on the bone. But what's happening is they're just merging these big ones at the top, and that's what happened.
Got it. Okay, so give us like a window inside, like a brief window inside that year, that 1 to 2 years. So if I was, Carl White dentist practice and I came into Freedom Dental Partners, what would that year to 2 look like? Because today whether I'm good at it or bad at it, it's my name, my shop, my choices. A year to 2 years later, what's changed?
Yeah, great question. The first thing we do is kind of an onboarding exercise. And the 3 big things that need to be conglomerated to call it a true platform are legally, we have to legally be on one entity. And,
Okay.
and you still, so Carl still has his practice, his name's still on the facade, right? The front, if you
Mhm.
will. Except the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes is, hey, we got this big mothership,
Yeah.
and the mothership gets better supply discounts, better lab discounts, better software right? Has all these economies of scale up there, but it's like private labeled, right? Meaning the
Mm.
patient and the team still view Carl White as the guy,
Mhm.
except Carl White has this kind of secret ability to play with the big boys and get the big boys economy of scale. So that's kind of how it looks. And so they have to be together legally. HR also rolls up to the top co, and all the employees get a better 401k, better medical insurance, yet they're still led by Carl, which is what
Okay.
Carl wants, right? It's what they want. They don't want some nameless corporate body as their employer. They want what they
Right.
have had. So legal, HR, and then the last thing, finances. The doctor gets paid their base pay at the PC level under the parent company, but all the dividends, the excess, the profits flow down from the big company.
Okay.
And the beauty of that is most doctors, dentists, pharmacists, chiropractors, right, plastic surgeons, they pay the highest federal and state tax bracket right now.
Mm.
Through this model, their taxes are generally cut in half.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not expect to hear that.
I know. Well, let's think about this. What did Amazon, Bezos's company, pay in taxes last year?
Yeah, right.
Zero, right? 0%. The average corporation in America pays single-digit taxes in most
Mhm.
cases, some of them double-digit. So there are tax advantages available at the big corporate level that the little guys don't have in America, which
Hmm.
is huge, because let's say that doctor increased zero more money through all the vendor savings, everything, yet they save half on their taxes.
Yeah.
Effectively, they've, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Effectively, their take-home profit is much higher, and so so it really ends up being a threefold equation. Number one, being able to keep all the freedom and autonomy that one would normally have. So
Yeah.
we saw how that happens by everyone still owning their same PC underneath this holding company. Number two, having a much higher valuation. Great.
Mhm.
Now your business is worth a whole lot more together. All right, great. And I don't have to retire, but at the same time, I could retire by replacing myself with another doctor and all that. But then three, what I keep, right? What I bring home after taxes,
Mhm.
it changes the algebra, right? It changes the algebra. Now you get benefits that you only generally get with these multi decamillion or centimillion corporations that have a new set of IRS codes that they are able to employ.
Right.
And one of them is a very simple one that everybody knows, and that's the difference between short capital gain.
Yep. Oh, Brady, you froze on me.
I did. I'm sorry about that. I wonder.
That's all right. Keep going. It's all right. It was
Yeah,
very brief.
yeah, very brief. Short-term capital gains versus long-term capital gains. Short-term capital gains are at the highest tax bracket.
Yep.
Long-term are, it's only 20% federally. So there's about 7 other tax advantages for doctors employing concepts like this.
Right. And we've talked a lot about dental, but you've done this in other specialty areas as well.
Yes, I really have focused on dental recently, but I helped start a lot of the big platforms that are now mainstream in other niches. So if anyone is listening and you're not a dentist, Carl can get you in touch with me, and I can get you over to these folks in other industries who are doing this that I've actually helped set up and are doing really, really well.
Yeah, and we'll have all your contact info for the show notes for your episode. So listeners, if you want to find Brady, that's the fastest way. I'm curious about, just going back to dentists, I imagine for every 10 who you approach or who approach you, not all 10 sign up or, take all the steps. So I'm wondering, what are the characteristics of those who embrace the model and sign on versus those who say, I don't think so, not for me, or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think the big thing is a lot of dentists at first say, I want to retire in a year. I just want to sell my practice. I don't want to wait for 12 months to go by and do this. I just want to sell now. I'm done.
Yeah.
So, and we've got another group, our mastermind group. All we do are buy practices in buildings like that.
Okay.
And that's great if you're just done. You're leaving, a lot of money on the table. But some people, they got inheritance. They're done.
Yeah.
I'm out here.
Yeah.
I don't deal with it. And so that's number one reason is I want to sell now. I can't wait 12 months to conglomerate. Probably the next biggie is, hey, I want to keep working 20 years. I'm in my prime. I've got growth. And usually those folks, once they understand that this puts their growth on steroids and pre-funds the retirement, and they get all that growth of the retirement funds by doing something now, and they get rid of debt. Usually those ones say, oh my, okay, this isn't just a transitioning out strategy. This is an expansion strategy and a way to actually have more of the fruits of my labor financially. The other big thing is, there is a little bit of education. Like our listeners right now, if they're listening this far, Carl, they've already wasted, 15 minutes of life.
No wasting here on PracticeCare,
no
but I know what you mean. We stand apart from all other podcasts.
That's right. So they've already put in 15 minutes into this, right? Mm-hmm. Some people they don't even want to move their attention span beyond 5 minutes to make $3 million on their transaction. Mm-hmm. And so, but once again, those are few and far between as well. So I would say about 85% of the doctors that we come in contact with mm-hmm. on this see the vision and immediately do it. In fact, we're doing a 20 location group in the Northeast. That was our recent one to launch about 2 months ago. And as of this moment, 100% of the doctors are on board. 5 more practices were referred in, and 100% of those are on board.
Okay.
So as information like this gets out there, I think more and more doctors say, well, I'm not really giving up anything here. Maybe a little time, a little education. And so really the only ones that just wouldn't be compatible are those that have physical ailments preventing them to move forward and give a couple of years, a year or two into it. But those are the biggies.
Okay. It sounds really interesting. I mean, I love that it's like, you can have your cake and eat it too, to an extent, which normally is a concept that doesn't work, but it really sounds like this is on that path. A couple of wrap-up questions I ask every guest. The first one is there anything you think I should have asked you, but just didn't, that our listeners should know about?
Maybe this. How does this tie in with purpose, legacy, and lifestyle? Because those are 3 things we don't talk about on business podcasts. What's purpose, legacy, and lifestyle? Yeah. Maybe that might be something. But do you want me to talk on that just for a little bit?
If you think I should have asked you, then go ahead and ask it and answer.
Okay. So I have 3. I've been married for 21 years. Have 3 sons. They're all in their teens right now. And with this particular model, rather than selling to the man, right, you end up keeping the business and the family, and you undergo a ton of learning, right? Mm-hmm. Many folks have learned just a few things right now, just getting into it. And when you learn about taxes, when you learn about increasing business valuation, when you bring in a lot more money for your life's work, that ends up affecting the legacy and your giving, and it becomes multi-generational wealth mm-hmm. rather than just you and someone's going to get a couple $1 million when I die. So legacy is big, purpose is big, because once you've done this, once you've seen this, you can't unsee it, so to speak, right? And the average doctor that's in our group refers 5 more doctors.
Wow.
So that's huge. Now you've taken, and because of you, your direct inner circle is now going to have a lot better future, frankly, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Financially, autonomy wise. So that's number 2 thing. Now you've got some purpose behind what you're doing, and you're positively affecting your profession. Mm-hmm. And then I think lifestyle is a biggie. This is one of the few models where if you have other interests, hobbies, places you want to live, this is the quickest way to financially get you to the freedom zone, but also at the same time allow you to transition other doctors into your practice to fill in your shoes. So if you want to work 1 or 2 days a week and do these other things you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
you can do that. So those are the intangible pieces I think that are also important.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Good. And then the other wrap-up question I ask is, all right, we've caught somebody's attention who's listening, or maybe multiple people, and they want to get started. Some people have a block on, I don't know, where do I start? So where should they start? Even simple
So,
stuff.
so there's probably two ways to start. Number one, if folks can make it to one of our seminars, BTDSO, Become the DSO seminars, that gives you a day and a half of all this stuff, right?
Okay.
For those that love to go to events, and those are normally like $700, covers food, breakfast and lunch both days. Because they're listening on your podcast, Carl, if they plug in the code Brady50, it's half off.
Oh, look at
So
that. Okay.
yeah, so Brady50 will do that. For those of you that are like, hey, I'm not a dentist. Hey, I travel enough.
Mhm.
Then, or hey, I don't know if this is a fit for me because this, and that. I would recommend emailing me first just to make sure, and I'd be happy to hop on the phone for 15 minutes. Assess what your goals are, if this is
Yeah.
a fit. And thankfully, I have time to do this. I retired clinically years ago after I started doing kind of this stuff full time,
Yeah.
and so yeah, either email me or probably one of our events that we do every 10 weeks to educate on topics.
Or again, your contact information will be in the show notes. I'm not sure if your email's in there, but reaching out through one of those listeners will get you to Brady very quickly. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Brady. Thank you for coming on and opening our eyes to, my God, cake and eat it too. Get big and stay private, especially with sort of this. You think of private equity, you think that's it. I'm not private anymore, but you found a different way, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to hear. Like I've said a couple times, we're going to put all of Brady's contact info in the show notes. So if you want to contact him, that's the fastest way to find it. 2 other points before we wrap up. First, if you're someone like Brady or I that serves private practice owners, or if you are a private practice owner yourself and you've figured out something on the business side that you think others would benefit from, we want to hear about it. In Brady's show notes and every episode show notes, there's a link, a couple of questions. Tell us what's on your mind so that we can get you scheduled as soon as possible. And finally, if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to PracticeCare. We drop a new episode every week. We're on Apple, Spotify, every major platform, easy to find. Make sure you stay up to date by subscribing. Thanks very much, and until next time.